Yeah. So good morning again, everyone. My name is Anthony Wilkes. I'm with Life and Safety. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about heat stress. As you know, it's starting to heat up here, in particular in the Southeast. But we're all affected by heat stress in some form or way. So some of the things we're going to talk about today are the factors contributing to heat stress, some of the health risks and symptoms of heat stress. And of course, everybody wants to know what are some of the regulatory standards that are surrounded with heat stress. So understanding heat stress a little bit, the danger of extreme heat increases each year. The last 18 of the 19 summers were the hottest on record. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that there were 36 work-related deaths due to environmental heat exposure in 2021. Believe it or not, heat-related injuries are common and likely undercounted in recent statistics. The New York Times published an article discussing this and noted researchers found a high number of heat-related injuries that are listed in other categories. The researchers found that extreme heat is likely to have caused about 20,000 extra injuries a year, or 360,000 extra injuries over the 18-year period that they studied. Okay. So what is heat stress? So heat stress occurs, of course, when the body is unable to cool itself enough to maintain a healthy temperature. Of course, normally the body cools itself by sweating, but sometimes that's not enough, and the body temperature keeps rising. The normal temperature for the body is 98.6 degrees. But some heat stress starts to begin to occur when your body temperature gets above that 102 range. And we all have had a fever somewhere along in our way, so we know even with a mild grade fever how bad we feel. Just imagine when your body temperature starts to get over 200. Some of the risk factors that can cause heat stress, of course, we all know about the environmental factors. And those environmental factors such as high temperature, workplaces, indoors or outdoors. Direct sun exposure, especially on those hot days between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. are the hottest. High humidity. Of course, that high humidity inhibits the evaporation of sweat, the body's natural cooling mechanism. Lack of an airflow, which prevents heat from escaping the body. And then working near or around radiant heat sources such as furnaces or ovens. Of course, some of our activities also contribute to that metabolic heat, which is the heat generated by the body during physical activity. This happens during activities with high exertions, not enough rest breaks, and repeated strenuous days in the heat. Also, some of the medications that we take contribute to the risk factors, particularly employees on medication for mental illnesses. Also, employees on diuretics. Diuretics increase the amount of urine you produce, which move extra salt and fluid out of the body and help relieve symptoms of swelling and high blood pressure. Some of our health conditions also contribute. Our health conditions include overweight and poor physical fitness. We have some of those other factors those non-breathable clothing, which can affect the body's ability to sweat and lose heat. Alcohol use within the past 24 hours if you're going out in the heat. And of course, age. But one of the most important factors is dehydration.
Anthony, do you mind? There's a little window. Do you mind hitting the hide button?
Hi.
It's about a third of the way down. Yeah, there you go. It was overlapping some of your material. Thank you.
Dehydration, which reduces, of course, back to dehydration, which reduces the body's mechanism for sweating and also getting those new and returning workers acclimated. Knowing some of the symptoms, heat exhaustion is a condition that is a result of your body overheating. Signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion include that pale, cool, clammy skin, headache, nausea, dizziness, those heavy sweating, irritability, thirst, and an elevated body temperature. Usually there's a decrease in the urine output when there's heat exhaustion. Heat cramps can also be a sign and symptom. Muscle cramps, pain or spasms that can be caused by the loss of electrolytes with heavy sweating. Often these cramps or spasms occur in the abdomen, legs, or the arms. And they also can be caused by drinking large quantities of water and diluting electrolytes. Of course, heat exhaustion can lead to heat stroke if not treated. So your heat stroke is the most serious heat-related illness. Heat stroke is a true medical emergency, and signs and symptoms include confusion, loss of consciousness, hot, dry, and red skin. You may have seizures and a very high body temperature. We normally think as long as someone was sweating that they were not in heat stroke. I've seen some information lately to indicate that victims can be sweating. Untreated heat stroke can quickly damage your brain, your heart, your kidneys, and your muscles. And heat stroke can be fatal if not quickly treated. So some of the treatments, in particular those for heat exhaustion, of course, is to lay the worker down, put them in air-conditioned air, remove some of the layers of clothing. Some of the first aid and treatments for heat stroke, of course, you want to start calling 911 immediately. You never try to give them water if they're unconscious, and you want to try to cool the body as much as possible. So how do you protect your workers? Of course, some of the big three, and OSHA has been talking about this for years, talk about water, rest, and shade. So you try to provide cool water for workers. You don't want them to wait till they're actually thirsty. You want to encourage them to drink small quantities frequently. It is recommended to drink about 8 ounces of water every 20 minutes, and also refrain from those carbonated drinks. Of course, you want to give workers a cool location where they can take their breaks. There could be a shady area, air-conditioned areas, or buildings with fans. And for the definition of a shade is direct blockage from sun rays. So some place where they won't be in direct sun. Of course, when heat stress high, workers may require additional breaks. So we'll talk about a work rest schedule a little bit more. Allow enough time for workers to recover. And also, in addition to all that, you want to get your workers to eat salty snacks in addition to drinking sports drinks to replace the salt loss through sweating. Hydration, like we said earlier, it's probably one of the most important things to risk factors related to heat stress. Here we have a urine chart, and it gives you an idea as to what your urine should look like during hydration periods. If you're on that right side, you're very dehydrated. You want to be somewhere in that good to fair range. Remember, dehydration is when your body doesn't have enough water and other fluids to carry out its normal function. And that's often caused by heavy sweating in high temperatures. Now, if your dehydration exceeds 1.5 to 2% of your body weight, then the tolerance to heat stress begins to deteriorate. Your heart rate and body temperature increases, and work capacity decreases. On that same line, being all the way to the left, overhydrated is an issue also. Overhydration can lead to water toxicity, also known as water poisoning. And that's when your body's water volume becomes too large for your kidneys to release, which can cause the extra electrolytes in your body to dilute. Okay. Getting workers acclimated. So, according to OSHA, Most outdoor fatalities occur in the first few days of working in warm or hot temperatures. When I worked for OSHA, this is where we saw the fatalities happen with new workers. So you want to get your new and returning workers tolerance built up. So you have to get them to take frequent breaks. The rule of thumb is that 20% rule. And that's on the first day you work no more than 20% of that shift's duration at full intensity. And over time, you build that employee's tolerance. So up until that fifth day when they can go 100% of their work capacity. Of course, personal protective equipment plays a part also. You want that loose fitting clothing, personal protective equipment to allow that airflow. Of course, there's other personal protective equipment that employees can use. You got those cooling bands. You got which helps evaporates water and keeps you cool. You got cooling shirts made out of wicked material and cool. Of course, special cooling personal protective equipment. And then you also wear hats with a wide brim, sunglasses, and sunscreens. Okay. Some of the things we must do, though, is also monitor the employees. A buddy system can help prevent heat-related illnesses. Workers should not work alone in those hot environments. And that's when we start talking about those hot environments when that heat index starts getting over 90 degrees. Workers should be trained in recognizing, preventing, and treating heat-related illnesses. And workers should monitor each other for early signs and symptoms of heat-related illnesses. So prevention, what can employers do to prevent this? So one of the things an employer can do is develop procedures for dealing with heat stress, heat in hot environments. One is talking about that water, rest, and shade. So you provide drinking water, you provide access to shade, and you develop a work rest schedule on hot days. Of course, and also procedures for responding to emergencies caused by heat illnesses, and provide those services without delay. OSHA will be looking at these things. What are your procedures? Also, OSHA will be looking at what's the training that's been done. The training should consist of the procedures for the prevention of illnesses caused by heat, the importance of drinking water frequently and in small quantities, the different types of illnesses caused by heat and the common signs and symptoms, and then information, contacts, and procedures in case of an emergency. What are those regulatory standards that are related to heat stress? Of course, the states of Washington, Minnesota, California, Oregon, and Colorado, those states have laws regarding heat stress. Although OSHA does not have a standard yet for heat illnesses, I know the agency is in the early stages of developing a standard. But of course, OSHA can use the general duty clause to cite employers for known heat hazards. But OSHA also faces some challenges when issuing those citations. The general duty clause has a higher level of proof for OSHA. The general duty clause requires employers to furnish a place of employment free from recognized hazards, causing or likely to cause death or serious physical harm. For OSHA to prove a violation of a general duty clause, they need to establish that the employer failed to keep the workplace free of a hazard to which employees were exposed. The hazard was recognized. The hazard was causing or likely to cause death or serious injury, and a feasible means to eliminate or materially reduce the hazard existed. Applying the general duty clause is difficult because OSHA must show in each case that the employer was aware of the risk, this is challenging for heat hazards in particular because there's no threshold temperature or heat index that is dangerous for all workers. Some factors that such as temperature, wind, cloud cover, humidity, physical exertion, and the required PPE all impact the risk. Further, the individual workers' health conditions, fitness level, and being acclimated to heat also play a role. So in essence, we may be working right along each other, but you may be affected by the heat differently than myself. So that makes it difficult for OSHA to issue that general duty violation. But there are several standards that may apply to address those worker protection in hot environments, including but not limited to, of course, the use of personal protective equipment, sanitation, medical services and first aid, and record keeping. The record keeping regulation, which is 1904.7B5, requires that employers record certain work-related injuries and illnesses. If a worker requires medical treatment beyond first aid, and the worker's illness or injury must be recorded, such as unconscious or use of oxygen. So you have to record that injury or illness. The sanitation standard, which is 1910-141 and 2651, require employers to provide cool, potable water. And then the general construction safety training and education standards, which is 2620 and 2621, require a safety and health program, as well as frequent and regular safety and health inspections may also be applicable. And then also OSHA now has started the National Emphasis Program on outdoor and indoor heat hazards. It became effective April 8th, 2022. OSHA has listed in that National Emphasis Program, the targeted industries can be found in Appendix A of that. And some of the industries include bakeries, steel mills, foundries, ship and boat building, warehousing, and storage. So it lists those, but then some of those industries may be also listed in some other national emphasis programs that OSHA is targeting. Some resources and tools here, of course, these tools exist and allow workers and employees to anticipate and react to high heat events. The chart that's listed here that's from the National Weather Service. It uses a heat index to classify environmental heat into 4 categories. Caution is from 80 to 90. Extreme caution is from 91 to 103 degrees. Danger is 103 to 124. And extreme danger is 126. And I know a lot of folks have been concerned about OSHA's take on, hey, things, you should do something when the heat index reaches 80 degrees. This is where OSHA gets that information from the National Weather Service as to when they start talking about what's the heat index supposed to be caution. And also the OSHA Knowledge Heat Safety Tool. This is a great resource. And this is a app that can be downloaded. This app takes in a fact of what's your current location, the weather, and the humidity, and it gives you the heat index. And it also goes over some first aid for those times, for those temperatures. And it can give you, it calculates that heat index for you to give you what it really feels like. So this is a great tool. In particular, a lot of employers are using at this time. Right. And that's what we did, something real quick on heat stress. So Nathan, if we have any questions now, we'll be able to take those.
Absolutely. All right. That was some fantastic information, Anthony. Thank you so much. I've got a question, and sorry, I'm house sitting for a dog, so I did have to step away for just a second. Did you answer the question, how often should rest breaks be taken?
Oh, there's no necessarily guidelines on that. You see some people talk about when it gets to certain temperatures that rest breaks should be taken up every 15 minutes. If once you start getting over that 90-degree range, but that's a struggle for a lot of employers because if you start taking breaks that often, you won't get as much work. So OSHA looks like companies, we've been advising companies to look at what your workforce is like. If it's a new or returning worker trying to get them acclimated, they will have to take more breaks. But you will have to develop some type of work rest schedule for the conditions that your employees are facing.
Okay, understood. Now, just maybe some clarification on one of your previous points where you were talking about construction safety and training. Are we to understand correctly that if you are in the construction industry, you are required to have a heat stress program, policy, and training for your employees?
But there's no particular standard on that. But
Gotcha.
like we were mentioning, OSHA will use that the general duty clause to issue violations related to these heat stress. So that's what we're recommending employers to develop a program so they will avoid that general duty violation. But there are also some other issues, requirements for construction, in particular, those frequent and regular inspections, those safety and health programs, and also providing cool water for the employees.